everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I have a video that I have been trying to get out to you forever, and it is a project that I had actually formulated in my mind last year. And you know, I've been on a spending freeze quite a long time here, and I just never realized the parts that, for it. So I had to use some ingenuity and come up with some things that I could potentially make my project with that didn't cost an arm and a leg, and I think I did that. So I'm really excited. This is something that I received as a gift to do something with from Gareth, who has created Home with G here on YouTube, and it came from Poundland. And I'm also combining elements from our Dollar Tree store, so it is a Dollar Tree / Poundland DIY. And I'm really thrilled with the way that it came out, and I hope you will like it too. So in the quest of doing better videos for you, I downloaded a software editing app, and of course I downloaded the free version, and the free version just wasn't all that it was supposed to promise to be. So I've had to go back and redo a few things, but nevertheless I hope you will enjoy the video. And if you do, make sure you stick around here for a while longer by clicking that subscribe button over there when it comes up. And then when the bell pops up, go ahead and tap that bell so you can be notified every time I upload a new video. So with that being said, let's get started. Okay, to get started, what you're going to be using is some Dollar Tree nautical rope. And you will probably need maybe 2 of these. I am using this wooden plaque that I received from Gareth from Created Home with G, and it is kind of a pressed board wood, but it works great. But we're not using the side that's printed. We're going to be using the back side of it. We're going to be using one of these little lamps that came from the Dollar Tree, the little candle holders. And then we're also going to be using some gesso, some white paint, and some pool blue paint, and they're all matte. It's very important you want to get matte. You don't want to get semi-gloss, or you don't want to get satin. You want the matte paint. You're also going to need some kind of bracket. These came in a 4-pack, and these I did purchase at Walmart. They were 97 cents. It's not originally what I had planned to use with this project, but it's what I could afford, and I made it work. And then I purchased a couple of these S-hooks here, and they were like, I think they were on clearance for 50 cents a pack at Walmart. And then the plaque came with the rope stapled on here. Now I have to tell you, this is better quality than anything I've gotten from the Dollar Tree, because man, I had a tough time pulling these staples off. I went ahead and pulled them off ahead of time so we wouldn't be struggling with that. And then what I'm going to be using is a black Sharpie and a ruler. So let's go ahead and get started. Because we want this to look like wood, I am going to be drawing lines down here, and I'm just going to come over about 1 inch or 2. The lines do not have to be even. So I'm just starting at the top, going down, and then sliding my ruler down. So like I said, they don't have to be evenly spaced. I want this to be very rustic looking. I am using a ruler to get them somewhat straight, but if they're not straight, not going to stress about it. Because when is real wood ever straight? If it's been worn. And that's what I want this to be. Very rustic, very worn looking. Okay? So we have that done. Now what I'm going to be doing is taking some gesso and gessoing my board. You want to make sure you use some type of permanent marker. That's why I used a Sharpie. And I'm just dumping out some gesso on the board. And it is important that you use gesso to prime this. And I'm just using a foam brush to go over it. And I'm leaving all the little ridges in here with the brush, because that is what is going to help us get that wood effect. Now I'm just going to go back up to the top and make sure it's consistent, like just one line going down. Make sure you cover it all. I'm just going to run over the edges. You're not going to need to cover the edges. It'll be fine just the way it is. Okay, then we're going to let that dry. So while we're waiting on our wood to dry, we're going to take our jar apart, just the little lid part of it, and we're going to take this off, and we're actually going to go over it with a little bit of gesso as well. I don't want to take all the black, away from it. Like I said, I want it to be very rusted looking, but I do want to take part of it off. And this just comes off like this. There we go. So I'm just taking what was left on my brush and brushing it with a little bit of gesso. So I'm just going to go over that completely, and you will see how it really changes the color of it. As far as it's not an opaque, but it shines through. But I really love the effect that it gives. It gives it that worn look. Okay, so I'm finished up with that, and I'm just going to let that dry. And instead of just doing plain brush strokes, I just kind of went around and dabbed it like this. Now this needs to dry very well before you mess with it again, or you'll knock all the gesso off of it, because it is metal. Okay, so we're all dry, and you can see how this looks. I love the way the green is starting to come out on it, even though it's just gesso. So the next thing I'm going to do is use some blue paint and go over that as well. And I'm just going to use the same brush I did with the gesso. And I'm not just kind of using a dry brush. I'm just kind of dabbing off on it. It doesn't have to be solid because I want it to show through. But there again, you can do whatever color you want. I mean, whatever. If you want it darker, you can make it darker. I'm choosing to go a little bit more opaque. I mean, a little bit more translucent because I want to be able to see my lines. But if your lines do happen to disappear or you go over them, you can always draw them back on. Okay. Now, while that is wet, I'm using this brush right here. This is a makeup brush that I use from Wet n Wild, but this is one that I use in my craft room. And I'm just taking the watercolor pencil because I didn't want to have water on my desk, and I'm just wetting my brush, and then I'm just going across it like this. Giving it a kind of a weathered look. And lightening some of that up because, like I said, I want to be able to see the lines in it. Okay, so now I want to add a little bit of white in on top of that. Don't want to add a lot. And the reason I like this brush so much is because of the way it leaves the paint. And I'm just going to dab it off on the paper. Just want a very light touch of it. Like it's just coming through. So look, I'm looking for is just very wood, just aged wood with lots of layers of paint coming through. And I think that looks really nice the way it is. So the next thing we're going to do is to let all of this dry, and then we're going to be working on our hardware. Okay, so I forgot to mention, I did kind of go over this a little bit with some gesso, but you don't have to because it's going to be covered up. But we are going to be using some permanent super glue or something like that. Of course, this came from the Dollar Tree. We're also going to be using some hot glue. So we're going to be using both of them in combination. And then we're going to be using our rope. Okay, so I didn't want this to show a whole lot, like the silver metal part. So I'm going to be adding hot glue and the permanent glue and covering it with rope. And I found that the combination of both of these work really well on the metal. The hot glue just held it in place until the other glue dried. But you definitely do need something strong to hold it. So I'm just going to put the rope in here and press down on it and hold it there for a second. This is kind of tedious in a way because it requires to be held. So make sure you don't burn yourself. So all I'm going to do is wrap it all the way around until I get to this hole here. And then I'll show you what I'm going to do with that. Okay, I'm almost at the end. And so I have to leave this hole open because that's where my S-hook is going to stick in. So I'm just going to reach around and leave about space like that much. Probably about 1/4 of an inch. And then I'm just going to finish gluing it all the way up under. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So you can barely see a gap there, and it looks all covered underneath. Now, I did this just because I didn't want the bracket showing. If you have another kind of bracket, you don't mind it showing, by all means, you can skip this step. But I just like the way the rope looked on it. Okay, so now that our board is dry, we're going to put some rope around the edges of it, and then we're going to put another rope on the top. I don't think this is going to be long enough, so I'm going to open up my second one and do that. Okay. And I'm just going to start at the bottom and start gluing with the hot glue. So what you want to do is take it so that it is almost at the top of your board right here. Not all the way back because you don't want to see any of this lip right here. So you're going to take it and glue it back toward the top of the board. I'm just going to show you how I'm getting started. I'm just putting it right here on the lip, on the edge of it. You want to lay down your rope and you want to press into it. So it looks like this. Press it nice and flat against the board. And then you're going to do that all the way around the board. And when I get finished, I'll show you what it looks like.